What's up, guys? Mike from Q Business Review today, and today we are continuing my record prediction series for all 32 teams. Today we're going to be predicting the San Francisco 49ers, which wraps up the entire NFC, and more specifically the NFC West. But before we start predicting the 49ers record, I just want to say that me and Dan, the other member of this channel, have been grinding for weeks to prepare a video that's going to be the best video on this channel by far, and it releases at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe. You do not want to miss that video later today. I don't want to give it too many hints, but first off, we compete head-to-head in a challenge, and we have to build an entire franchise by selecting NFL players at random. It's a really fun video. It was really hard to make, but it was a lot of fun, so you guys are not going to want to miss that at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Alright, so before we get into the video about predicting the 49ers record, let's talk about what the 49ers did in the offseason. So honestly, I think the 49ers had one of the worst offseasons of any team. First off, the DeForest Buckner trade. They traded him for an early first-round pick, which they used to draft defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw. I don't understand this. Because whenever you're drafting somebody, there's always the risk of them being a bust, whereas Buckner was already established as an elite defensive lineman. Obviously, maybe Buckner, maybe Javon Kinlaw can be a good player, but DeForest Buckner, he was already established. I don't really understand that one. Next up, I hate this move. They got rid of running back Matt Breda. Bye-bye, Breda. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry on 250 attempts in 2019. Matt Breda definitely was the number one running back in this running back room, and he definitely performed well in 2019, so it's going to be a tough loss for the 49ers. And then another bad thing the 49ers did, they let Emmanuel Sanders walk in free agency, basically, and Emmanuel Sanders is going to the Saints. Emmanuel Sanders had over 800 yards last year, and he definitely helped the 49ers. He was the number one receiver, and he helped them out in the playoffs as well. They replaced Emmanuel Sanders, quote-unquote, replaced, with Brandon Ayuk, who they drafted in the 2020 NFL draft. They selected him with the number 25th pick overall in the first round. Ayuk comes from Arizona State University. It's something bad about the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, who hasn't played one NFL snap in his whole entire life, is their number 2 receiver. Their number 1 receiver is Deebo Samuel, who, in my opinion, did not have a number 1 receiver season in 2019. So this wide receiver room is definitely a little sketchy. You got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I don't know. They haven't specifically named a third wide receiver yet, but I'm just going to say George Kittle, because I know obviously George Kittle's a tight end, but George Kittle, he's honestly going to be their number 1 receiving target, I believe, in 2020, because the receiver room might not be as great. The 49ers do have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They have a good offensive line, but their defense is kind of the main point of this team. So obviously they hit a home run with Nick Bosa. They got Javon Kinlaw joining the defensive line, Arik Armstead, Richard Sherman, and Kwan Williams. So this defense for the 49ers definitely is top of the league, and I believe that's going to help them get the wins. So let's start predicting their schedule. Here it is. So like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of the 49ers off seasons. I don't think they did it that bad where they're not going to be contenders this year, but I do think that they're going to have a worse season than last year overall. But honestly, when I went through to predict their schedule, you can see their schedule right now, I honestly thought that they got lucky in a couple of spots, and I think that their record prediction for me is definitely going to be pretty high. But just know that on the inside, I think they're going to take a step back, but I had to predict the games fairly with what I believed. So week 1, the 49ers start out by playing the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals are a new-look team. I think that's going to hurt them early in the season, obviously with the coronavirus impacting how much time each team gets to practice in 2020. I think that, the Cardinals definitely could win this matchup later in the season, and I think they probably will. But I think that week 1, the 49ers, coming off of that Super Bowl loss, they're definitely going to be, the better team week 1. And the fact that it's in San Francisco and it's a divisional game to start the season off, you can't give the 49ers a loss here. The 49ers start out 1-0. Next up, 2 easy games for the 49ers. 49ers travel to New York to play the Jets. where they take on Sam Darnold and Jamal Adams. And then, wait a second, who else can you name? I don't even know who the Jets wide receiver core is anymore. Obviously, the only person I knew from the Jets wide receiver core was Robbie Anderson. So that Jets team is definitely not going to be great in 2020. I don't think that Le'Veon Bell and the coach gets along very well. So it's not looking good. I do think that Sam Darnold definitely might be a little underrated as quarterback. He definitely performed well when he did not have mono. But the Jets just aren't going to beat the 49ers regardless of where this game is played. 49ers start off 2-0. Similar matchup happens week 3 in the NFL where the 49ers travel to New York to play the Giants. Now, all of you know that I actually am a fan of the New York Giants offense this season. So they upgraded their offensive line by selecting an offensive lineman early in the draft. And then they have one of the best offenses, I think, one of the most promising offenses in the league. So Daniel Jones, nobody really knows what he is, but I think he can be a decent, good quarterback. But then you got Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and Golden Tate, and Evan Ingram. I think that those skill position players definitely are really good. In 2019, there was a suspension for Golden Tate. Then there was a couple injuries. Saquon was injured for a couple weeks. And their offensive line was horrible. So I think that the Giants definitely are going to have a good offense this year. But their defense, oh my gosh. The New York Giants defense definitely is going to be a fallback for this team. And the 49ers offense, regardless of, their wide receiver group, George Kittle is just going to obliterate this team. And I think that the 49ers definitely start off 3-0. Next up, the 49ers play what, in my opinion, is going to be the hardest game of their first 4 games. They play the Philadelphia Eagles in San Francisco. So, obviously, I'm an Eagles fan, but when I do these predictions, I'm unbiased, and I have to give the San Francisco 49ers the win against the Eagles. I think the Eagles, honestly, you consider who's the most improved team in the 2020 offseason. The Eagles did make some good moves. They got Marquise Goodwin. They signed Javon Hargrave. They did make some good moves in the offseason, but they made the playoffs in 2019 when their whole entire team was injured. So imagine, in 2020, when they get back their offensive line, they get back their wide receiver core, they get back their defensive line, and they get back their cornerbacks. They add Darius Slay, add Nicole Roby-Coleman. The Eagles definitely are going to be a good team this year. But I think that the Eagles are definitely going to start off 3-0 as well. I already predicted them. So I think this is going to be a battle of undefeated teams. I think in San Francisco, I think the Eagles fall short. I don't know. I think the 49ers start off 4-0. Another factor for that game is how Brandon Brooks, debatably the best player on the Eagles offense, towards Achilles. Eagles are already getting injured before the season starts. You hate to see it. All right, week 5, the 49ers play the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins are kind of in rebuild mode, whereas the 49ers just came off of a Super Bowl loss. 49ers definitely the better team overall, offensively and defensively. The Dolphins are heading in the right direction, but I don't see it happening early in the season against a good team. 49ers start off 5-0. Next up, the 49ers play the Los Angeles Rams for the first time in the season. This game is in San Francisco, and I was kind of hard on the Rams in their predictions, but I honestly don't think the Rams are going to be good. Their running back room is Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers. Come on, bro. Cooper Kupp obviously is a good player, and Robert Woods had a good season, but Robert Woods and Josh Reynolds are not going to be great this year as wide receivers. Jared Goff had a kind of an off year in 2019. He did throw for a good amount of yards, but he had only 22 touchdown passes, which was much less than his previous 32 and 28 the previous seasons, and he had 16 interceptions, much more than the last 2 seasons. So I think the Rams are going to take a step back, and I think that the Rams will fall to the 49ers for the first matchup. Next up, the 49ers play the Patriots in New England. This game's not going to be that interesting, I think. With Jarrett Stidham as quarterback, I don't see the Patriots competing in that many games, especially against better teams. I think the 49ers get the win in Foxborough. And the 49ers start off 7-0, that's right. This is where, all right, the 49ers just had a pretty easy 7-game stretch except for the Eagles. But this is where things, get a little sketchy for the 49ers. They traveled to Seattle to play the Seahawks in the first of their matchups. This is a divisional game. I think the Seahawks are going to have maybe not as good of a record at this point because they had a harder schedule, but they're going to have a similar record to the 49ers. This game is definitely going to be an important game for both of these teams in terms of divisional record. And I think that in Seattle, the Seahawks definitely get the win. The Seahawks are I think the Seahawks just have a better offense. Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson. The only concern I have for the Seahawks is they were in 2019, they ran the ball the second most amount of any team. And I look at it and I'm like, you have Russell Wilson and you have, pieces at wide receiver where Russell Wilson can be the best quarterback in the league. And you're running the ball with Chris Carson. Obviously there's times where you have to run the ball, but, let Russell Wilson play, dude. Let him show off, how much of an all-star he is. I think the Seahawks are probably going to do that in 2020. I think the Seahawks are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. And the Seahawks get the win here, 49ers 7-1, first loss of the season. And by the way, the Seahawks, we still have to predict that team. So I was wrong when I said the 49ers wrap up the NFC West, because the Seahawks are going to be next, so get ready. Next up for the 49ers, they play the Packers. This game's a home game for the 49ers, but I think that the Packers have a better offense. Obviously the 49ers have a better defense, but I think the Packers' offense is by far better than this team. Packers have a star. I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Garoppolo. The Devontae Adams is definitely better than the whole entire 49ers receiver core. And Aaron Jones is a better running back than Raheem Mostert, who's starting for the 49ers on their depth chart. So that's not looking good. And the 49ers get 2 straight losses, 7-2. Next up, they play the New Orleans Saints. And this game is in the Metrodome in New Orleans. And with Drew Brees, Kamara, and Thomas, better offense. I think the Saints defense is just a hair behind the 49ers defense. So I think this game is, maybe not going to be that great of a game. I think the Saints definitely win big here in New Orleans. And the 49ers get 3 straight losses against 3 good teams, and they're 7-3. Next up, they play the Rams. This game's in Los Angeles, second game they're playing against them. I think the 49ers sweep the Rams in 2020. Rams take a step back, 49ers 8-3. Now, this was one of the hardest games for me to predict in the season when the 49ers take on the Bills in San Francisco. Everyone knows how high I am on the Bills in the 2020 season. With Josh Allen, I think their whole entire offense is going to be one of the best in the league. And I think they have one of the best defenses in the league with a couple Pro Bowlers. You got Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, and so on and so on. I definitely think that the Bills are going to be a great team. And I think that, honestly, this game is going to be an upset where people expect the Bills to definitely win this game. But I think that the 49ers get the job done at home. This is going to be one of their biggest wins of the season. And I just feel like the 49ers take home this game, and they improve to 9-3. Next up, the 49ers play the Redskins in San Francisco. This game obviously going to be a blowout. Redskins definitely improved on defense with Ronald Darby and Chase Young, but their offense is still pretty bad except for Terry McLaurin. The Redskins, they still have some improving to do before they can contend in any games, let alone games against teams that were just in the Super Bowl. 49ers improve to 10-3. 49ers then take on the Cowboys in Dallas. And I think that the 49ers get the job done in Jerry's World. This is going to be another tough game for the 49ers. And I think that they're going to be contending for the division right now in this game. And I think that they go out to Dallas and get the win. Especially with, I don't think the Cowboys are that great of a team this year. The Cowboys defense, if you look at their secondary and their safeties, the Cowboys have a couple Randys on defense now. I think they definitely got worse on defense this year. So the 49ers get the win. Next up, the 49ers play the Arizona Cardinals. This game is in Arizona. Like I said earlier in the predictions, the 49ers play the Cardinals week 1. I think that's going to be a pretty easy win. But I think that late in the season, Cardinals are definitely going to be improved. Cardinals added a lot of people on offense. We all know that. But I think the real sleeper picks are on defense, where they added Devon Kennard, Devondre Campbell, Isaiah Simmons, and Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle. I think the Cardinals are going to be really good on offense and sleepy good on defense. Cardinals definitely get the win here in Arizona, and this could be a big game late in the season. 49ers 11-4. Next up, 49ers finish off their schedule with a game against the Seattle Seahawks. This game is in San Francisco, and I'm just going to be safe and say the 49ers split with the Seahawks in 2020. I could see this. If I was leaning to a team to sweep this series, I definitely think the Seahawks have an advantage. But I think that late in the season, the 49ers get the win here, and they improve to 12-4. I could see them losing this game and going to 11-5. But my prediction stands 12-4. I do think the 49ers take a step back in 2020 in terms of overall play, But, you hear the prediction. 12-4 is my prediction for the 49ers. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who I get to wrap up the NFC West with, and Seahawks fans are definitely going to be pleased. Like I said, a new video dropping at 4 p.m. Eastern Time today. You're not going to want to miss it. Subscribe, like, you know the deal. There we go.